Hey guys, and welcome back to my abandoned channel. If you do not follow me on Twitter or Instagram, you probably should. Just saying, unless you really don't want to know what's going on with me, then absolutely do not follow me on there because I do not shut up on there. But I have been gone for quite a while, but I've been updating everyone on Instagram and Twitter about my whereabouts, what's been going on, insight into my emotions, and the very, very intense situation that has been going on in my life. And if you do not follow me on Instagram or Twitter, you have no clue what I'm talking about. That's okay though. I made a very long video, as you can see, for you guys to know exactly what the heck has been going on. Now, this video includes a lot more information than I have ever spoken about on Instagram or Twitter. So even for those who do know the general synopsis of what's been going on, this is much more detailed and very emotional, but necessary. Now, for the first half of this video, and I know the first half is very long, I'm going to be very awkward. It took me a long time to get comfortable talking. It literally took me half the video to get into my skin and comfortable talking in front of a camera again. So I am redoing my intro right now because at first I was just like stuttering and not knowing what the heck to say. So it's going a lot better right now, so I thought I'd redo it. All right. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So hopefully I'll edit it and make it better, but yeah, I am kind of awkward, but the message is still there and it's an emotional one. But basically, before I start, let me go ahead and warn you guys about what you're about to watch. For the last 2 years, there has been noticeable changes in my personality and on my channel. I would go months in between uploads. I'd act it almost seemed fake, my personality, like my happiness and everything. There was this giant wall between me and you guys, and I'm not just talking about the computer screen, I'm talking about an emotional wall. It was like I was not there. And for some people, they didn't really notice it because they didn't know me well enough, but for longtime viewers, there was a change that got more and more dramatic over the last 2 years. I did try to get better on and off. There were some times where I genuinely thought I was doing good, and other days when I filmed that I was just doing rotten but tried to put on an act to make everyone not worry. So the truth of everything is finally coming out now. I'm finally able to talk about everything that happened and how I ended up here. And yes, the title is a crazy one, but that is the truth. So basically, this video may not be best for younger viewers if you are a parent who lets their child on their iPad All right. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, if you are a parent and you're letting your child use the iPad in the backseat of your car and you hear me talking out of the iPad right now, I suggest that you change what they're watching. Because this video is about really bad relationships and drug abuse. So, yeah. No, but all laughing aside, I am healthy now. I am in a good place, which is why I am so upbeat right now. I am just really happy to be able to be myself again. If you are a longtime viewer, you might notice in the background, I am in my parents' home. I have moved back in. We have come full circle. We have come full circle, my friends. I'm living back in my parents' home. I am dripping sweat because I'm in a tiny room with my bed and all my clothes and all of my animals. So it's a little cramped in here, but it's okay. It's okay. This video is going to be talking about addiction, which is an uncomfortable topic for many people, and many people don't understand it. And I hope you don't take offense when I say that, because I personally did not understand addiction either up until about 2 months ago. I got very educated, and now I want to share everything I have learned, and I will be doing that going forward, but that is not what's happening in this video. I'm not going to be discussing how addiction really works in this video. I'm not going to be discussing, you know, the chemicals in the brain that are affected. I'm not going to be discussing any of that stuff in this video. This video is not about how addiction works. This video is about how I myself battled addiction and how it actually started and what the hell has been going on in my life these last 2 years that I have not been able to tell you guys. And I truly think in order to move forward on my channel that I need to tell you guys all of this, because if I just move on and act like nothing happened, I don't think I will ever develop that genuine connection with you guys that I desire to have. I really want to have a bond with you guys. I want you guys to not only just enjoy watching, you know, animals mindlessly on my channel, but actually, you know, get some good positive feelings from watching me more than just like, haha, cute animal. Like, I want to have a connection with you guys. I want you guys to feel cool. That's a bad word for it. I want you guys to feel like we're a family, and families tell each other things. So I'm about to tell you how I ended up in a really bad relationship and ended up on heroin. Yeah. I do ask kindly that if you do have a point of view that is kind of negative about addiction and what I'm describing, the, you know, nasty relationship and the drugs, I do kindly ask that you at least sit through the whole video before commenting something negative, if you must comment something negative. I truly am here for the people that want to continue to be on this channel and grow with me and go forward in this whole new chapter of my life. So if you don't want to be here for that after hearing the story, you don't have to be. There is an unsubscribe button. You don't have to just stick around and leave nasty comments every time I post a video. So that is the general statement before I start. Enough rambling. Here is the truth about the last 2 years of my life. Awkward transition.
This is a trigger warning. This video does discuss addiction, references to drug use of multiple substances, alcohol use, and dysfunctional, unhealthy relationships. Any photos or footage that I use in my story will only be shown after either a verbal warning or an on-screen warning.
When I started my YouTube channel, it took off so fast. I did not expect to ever have even 100,000 subscribers, let alone now what, 2 million? I guess I'm at like 1.6 million or 1.7 million, not 2 million. Don't want to exaggerate, I'm sorry. I got about half of my subscribers in the first year of my YouTube, and I never ever expected it to happen that way. I never expected to have this big of an audience. The entire reason I made my YouTube is because I love animals and I love making people smile and laugh, and I love entertaining people. I am naturally a giver where I want to please other people. I'm a huge people pleaser to the point where I have a lot of identity problems. I have a really hard time sticking to one preference or opinion or point of view because I want to please people so bad that I will often be so willing to change my point of view on things just so I could be accepted and validated and things like that, which I think personally does not make a good leader or a good influencer on social media, because I don't have, you know, these solid opinions that you guys can decide if you like or not. Instead, I constantly having identity crises. I'm constantly not knowing who exactly I am. And I think that has been perceived in a way as fake on my channel because people constantly can't really figure out who I am. Now, the first year of my channel though, it was pretty solid because there wasn't much happening in my life. It was just me at home in my parents' house talking about my pets. And it was pretty simple, pretty easy, and pretty enjoyable to watch because there was nothing, no dramatic things, no controversial things. It was just a girl and her pets. That's how I wanted it to stay. I wasn't prepared for the audience that I got, but once I got it, all I wanted was to live up to the name that you guys had given me, which you guys gave me a platform I never expected to have. And you guys really got to like me because of my animals and my channel before I even really knew who I was myself. Then about a year into my channel, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but my cat is in their litter box, so I'm sorry. But about a year into my channel, I really started struggling with my identity. Because I got to the number of subscribers that I did, it got to the point where there are not just people who like me, but people who dislike me. And that was terrifying to me. I had no clue how to deal with people who hate me. I was like, oh my goodness, what have I done wrong? I need to change this. I need to do something to make them know that I'm not this terrible person they think I am. And I just did not know how to handle it. And that is when my insecurities really started to show on my channel, because I started to monitor everything I did on there. If I saw something that I did that someone didn't like, instead of just saying, you know, hey, that's me, I'm gonna keep doing it, instead I just stopped doing it because I was so scared, like, oh my God, they must be right that I'm terrible if they don't like the way I said this word. I won't say it anymore just because it made someone unhappy, not because I personally understood why I shouldn't say it or believed I shouldn't. And that's just a hypothetical example. There really isn't a specific word I stopped saying because of people, but that is when I started to have identity problems on my channel. I started to get really, really scared that I was messing up, that I was doing something that wasn't good, and I just wanted to be accepted. Always been a problem with me is that I've wanted to always be accepted. To preface this next part, I want to say that I've always been a person who struggles being alone. I'm extremely codependent. I've been single for quite a while. Like when I started my YouTube, I actually was dating someone on and off from my job where I worked at Petco. I hated Petco, I didn't want to work there, but I did just to be around animals. And when I started making more money from YouTube than I did at Petco, I quit Petco. I started just doing full-time YouTube, and that's when I completely broke it off with the guy that I was seeing at the time. From the time I quit Petco up until my newest relationship that you guys were aware of started, I was single, and I was doing okay, but I was really uncomfortable with being alone. So the combination of not having really friends or a romantic life and just living at home, I didn't have a job, I didn't go to school, I was completely isolated, and all I had was YouTube. That was it. Being completely isolated and wanting to be accepted, craving that codependent relationship, I was pretty much ready to jump on to anyone who looked at me even. Basically any boy that looked my way and said, hey, you're cute, I was like, I'm ready. I just wanted to be loved, basically. This is when my channel really took a dive. I mean, all of a sudden I went from, you know, making so many followers and having such a loving and supportive audience to having a very scared audience and having a lot of people wonder what changed. And I'm finally able to say that it was my relationship that I got into. I just want to preface that I do not want to create some kind of mob mentality with this story. The story is not the happiest, okay? You're gonna hear some uncomfortable stuff, but I do not want any of you who know who this is about to go after this person. I just want to move on, okay? Yes, I might cry, I might be emotional, but I don't want any of you guys to feel like you need to go after this person or, you know, tell them you get what I'm saying, I hope. So back to what I was saying, my channel was going great and all this stuff, and I hit 1 million, and I was starting to have this identity crisis, facing, you know, starting to get criticism and having this huge audience that was thinking I was this and I was that and I was great and they love when I do this exact thing and hate when I do this exact thing, and I was starting to have an identity crisis. I got in a relationship with a guy, and most of you are aware of who this person is. No, I was not an idiot the whole time, where I was completely unaware of all of these scary allegations and accusations towards this person. I was not blind to the dangers of the relationship. I just simply felt like I could not say a word about it and that I had to shut my mouth and deal with it. And I promise this story has everything to do with the title of this video. Basically, I meet this guy online. Was a huge fan of his music, and I was flattered that someone that I thought was so talented was interested in someone like me. And there were a lot of red flags from the beginning that normally I would have been put off by, but I'm the kind of person that always sees the good over the bad and will sometimes completely ignore danger because of this tiny little nice thing I kind of see behind the wall of danger, you know? So with him, He was very nice and sweet with me. He sent me flowers and a teddy bear and stuff right when I met him. And by meet, I mean we talked over the phone. We FaceTimed all the time, and I saw the good in him over these bad warning signs, kind of. So I saw the good in him and decided I was gonna go out and meet him. When I announced online that I was planning to go see him and that we were somewhat dating, I already had a ticket, I already had all the plans to see him and all this stuff. I got a few warnings about that he had some allegations of abuse against him, and they warned me like, hey, this guy has some allegations, they haven't been proven yet, but you know, there's speculation that he has abused his ex-girlfriends. You should probably stay away. In my head, I thought, you know what, I'm going out to California for other reasons other than just to meet him, and he likes me, and I don't think I'm gonna find anyone else that likes me. That is how low my self-esteem was at the time, that you could tell me that this guy could potentially hurt me and that he's hurt other people, and I still was like, you know what, I don't think anyone else is gonna like me. So even if he's done some bad things, this is probably all I'm capable of achieving in a relationship. So I ignored the warning because I already felt, because of the way he talked with me, because of the way he was very good at picking up on exactly the kind of person I was and manipulating my emotions into feeling like I needed to stay. He told me from the beginning that, you know, he's nothing without me, that I've made him happier than he's ever been in his whole life in just a matter of, you know, 2 weeks, blah, blah, blah. And just the way he worded things was very unhealthy for me, because I took that as, even with these potential allegations, that I can't leave this guy. I'm the only thing that's making him have, you know, any motivation to keep going, and I can't leave this guy also because it's the best I'm gonna get. So there were 2 sides to this. 1, I felt like I couldn't really leave, and 2, I felt like I would not find any better if I did. So I pursued going out to California and meeting him. We ended up spending every day together in California. He is very, very good at wrapping himself around me, and the second I met him, he had me stuck. I did like him right when I met him though, so yes, he did have me trapped. He played on my emotions, my desire to be a giver, my people pleaser tendencies, and my insecurities. He grabbed every little thing about me. He saw right into my soul and knew exactly how to keep me there. Basically, I couldn't leave him. I couldn't. And my mom was so scared for me that she basically told me, she'd never even met this guy yet, and she knew something was bad. And she told me basically, if you're gonna stay with him, you can't come back to our house. I'm not gonna watch this happen, and you're too old for me to actually, you know, stop you. And if you're not gonna listen to me, I have to disconnect. I cannot watch it happen in my house. And in my head, I was like, I have to, you know, I have to be with this guy. He needs me, I need him. And so straight from California, I bought him a ticket to San Antonio and flew him down with me, got him a hotel room here, and started looking for apartments. I found an apartment in a matter of 1 week. I grabbed all my things and I moved in, and he came with me, and he was there living with me in my apartment before I even had furniture. He was living with me on a mattress in my apartment, and I had just met him two weeks ago. And we kept lying to ourselves, saying he was just visiting, that he was helping me move in, and that he was gonna go stay back wherever the heck he lived and then come and visit every once in a while, but that he wasn't living with me. And we kept telling ourselves that. And then another week passed, and another week passed, and another week passed, and he was still there. Before I go any further, there's another thing I need to throw in that I have forgotten to mention. Now, I am not going on any script here, so that's why this is so all over the place. I'm very sorry. I'm gonna try to edit it the best I can to where it's flowing. But another reason I was so enticed in meeting him is because the day we started talking, he told me, I have a problem. I've been a heroin addict for 10 years. And you'd think when a guy that's already 10 years older than the girl tells a girl that it would scare the girl away. But for me, it brought me in. All my life, I knew I had a problem. I knew I had let's say I had an addictive personality. That's what I said growing up. And then when I turned 18, I think, I had my very first sip of vodka. I was in LA. I tried some vodka for the first time, and I literally had like 3 sips, maybe a little more, because it tasted like crap. No one drinks for the first time in their life and says, this tastes delicious, okay? I thought it tasted like crap. So I took like 3 or 4 sips, and of course I did not get drunk. And I put it down and I was like, this is disgusting, I hate it. And I went to sleep that night, and I woke up the next morning with this intense craving that I have never felt in my life. Let's use water for an example. I woke up feeling like I had not had a drink of water in 3 weeks, and that I needed it so badly that I would do anything I could to get it. Except instead of water, it was alcohol. I woke up wanting alcohol so badly, and I didn't know why. It's like, what is this insane feeling? I only had 3 or 4 sips and it tasted like crap. Why do I want it? And I don't know why I wanted it, but I went and I got some vodka that day, and I drank enough to get drunk. And then the following day I did it again and again and again. And then I was in a party in LA. A guy offered me a tiny bump of cocaine. I said no, I'm never done drugs other than like smoking weed when I was younger. And I was like, no, I've never done drugs. I don't want that. I'm scared of it. Like, oh my God, what if it kills me? Like, I'd never done anything. And he's like, all right. And he didn't push me, he didn't pressure me. He said, it's fine. And he walked away. And then I just sat there and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try it. I don't know why. I just all of a sudden started obsessing over the thought of trying it. This is the same week I'm going on that vodka alcohol craving binge thing. So I go and I try it, and I try one little tiny bump of it. I don't feel anything, I don't get high, I don't get any rush. It just tasted disgusting because I didn't even bump it, I gummed it, and it tasted disgusting. And I hated it. And so I went to bed that night and didn't want any more because it was just one gross bump. And then I woke up the next day and I had that same craving that I had for alcohol after that 3 or 4 sips, but I had it for cocaine. And it was so severe and so insane from that one little bump that I cried my eyes out in the shower the whole morning. I was shaking. I texted like 5 of my friends that I felt like I wanted to die, that I felt like I was suicidal. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I remember I was crossing the street and I stopped in the middle of the road and debated, what if I just let myself get hit by a car right now? Like, I just don't want to exist. And it was so bad. And in my head, all it kept saying was, it would be better if you just found some more cocaine. Which didn't make sense because I never even gotten the high from the cocaine. I just put a little bit in my gums, but I obsessed over it until I got more, and then I got more again, and I got more again, and this was through a friend. I didn't know any dealers. I didn't know how to do any of that. I was just asking friends for party drugs, you know, where do you get the coke and stuff? And then I had to fly back home to Texas, and I didn't know where the hell to get drugs in Texas, so I didn't. And I just cried my eyes out for like 3 weeks. I was chronically depressed. I wanted to die. I didn't know what was wrong. I was extremely suicidal. I was a mess over a few days of using coke, and before that drinking some alcohol. And I didn't know what the hell was wrong with me. But I moved on until now, going back to meeting this guy who told me that he was a heroin addict of 10 years. It made me very, very interested to meet an addict because I didn't really understand what addiction was, and I found it very fascinating. So it's another reason I felt very intrigued by him, and I promise all of this comes into play. So me and my ex were living together for about a month when he told me that he needed to go outside to pick up some weed from a guy that I knew. So he told me that his friend was in the garage and that he was gonna go get some weed and come right back. So I said, okay, that's fine. I didn't really care about weed. And I sit there for like 30 minutes or 45 minutes and he still hasn't come home. And this is November of 2017, just so you guys can have some idea. I text him and I'm like, hey babe, like, where are you? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, we're in a long conversation, and the dude, he was out of gas, so I went to the gas station with him, and I'm paying for his gas because he couldn't afford it, and he's just giving me all these reasons as to why he's taking so long. I'm like, okay, because I'm a very, very, very trusting person at the time. So I was like, all right, he's just taking a while, he's just being a nice friend, whatever. Another 30 minutes go by, he's still not home. He finally comes home over an hour later, and he is acting so weird. I cannot put into words how weird he was acting, and it was not how he acted when he smoked weed. It was something weirder, something darker. I remember I kept pushing him, like, hey babe, like, what's wrong? Why are you acting weird? He just kept looking down the entire time. He would never look me in the eyes. He kept looking away. And then finally I got him to make eye contact with me, and his pupils were gone. He had little tiny dots in his eye. Now, I know, even though I've never done opiates, that cocaine is a stimulant or an amphetamine, and it makes your pupils really big, and opiates make them really, really tiny. So I immediately knew he was not smoking weed and that he had taken some kind of opiate, and it made him a different human being, and it was terrifying. It's like my boyfriend was not there, and he would not admit to me that he had taken it. He kept telling me, no, it was just weed, I swear, I swear, I swear. And then finally, when I kept pushing him about his pupil size, he said it was Xanax, and then that was just it. It was Xanax. He promises it was Xanax, and I would not buy it. And I got so scared that I went and locked myself in a bathroom with my little kittens, because I had little tiny kittens. Nemo was like this big at the time. I locked myself in the bathroom, and I reached out to his ex, and I said, I'm terrified. Can you please give me some tips? Because I don't know what to do. He really is really scaring me right now. How did you leave him? Because I think I'm stuck. And she gave me some advice on how to at least get him out of the house for the night, and to debate, you know, what to do going forward. So I tried my best. I couldn't get him to leave the house. Instead, I got him to just go to bed. And then we woke up the next morning, and he finally admitted that he had smoked heroin. And he said that it doesn't count as breaking his sobriety because he didn't inject it, and that's what he had a problem with. And again, I did not know much about addiction at the time, so I just listened, and I was like, okay, please never do that again though, because it scared me. And he promised and swore in his life that he never would. I guess a few weeks later, he had a real hard time keeping that promise, because I went out to go get my nails done with my mom, and I came back home and opened the kitchen, walked in, and a weird guy was in my house that I have never met. Turns out this is the guy that he met when he went to go get the weed. It wasn't from the friend that I thought he was getting it from. It was from this guy who is a drug dealer. I had a drug dealer in my house, and I've never had a drug dealer in my house. And I was like, what is going on? He pulls me aside and brings me into the bathroom, and he tells me, look, I know you like cocaine, and I personally like opiates. My drug dealer here has both. He will give you cocaine, and I can just have one fun night with these, they were Roxy's, 30 milligram Oxycontin. And so he was like, I'll have the Oxys, you have the Coke, and we'll just both have a good fun night, and then we'll stop. And I stood there, and I was scared. And I told him I didn't believe him, that this would be the only night. He swore to me up and down it would, that this dude just happened to be running into town. He'll be out of town tomorrow, and then it won't even matter because we won't have any access to it, and we'll stop. So with the promise of this really nice cocaine, I agreed. And I said, okay. Long story short, that was not the only night. He began to do that 4 nights in a row, I want to say. And he acted like a insane human being on the opiates that he was taking. And it scared me, and I just wanted my boyfriend back. The one that he was when he was sober, and the one that, you know, took care of me and that was nice and caring and loving, which he did do those things when he was sober, and I just wanted that back. I grabbed all my cocaine on the 4th night, and I flushed it all down the sink, which is really bad for the environment, but I was not thinking. Please do not attack me. I flushed it all down the sink and I said, look, I'm not doing this anymore. You said we'd only be doing this if we both were using. I'm not using anymore, so now it's your turn to flush your stuff, because I can't do this anymore and I want my boyfriend back. Instead of agreeing or being loving or being caring, he became this insane human being that was the scariest person I've ever seen in my life. And he told me that I just threw baking soda down the sink and that I actually was hiding the cocaine and that I was a liar and that I'm not gonna ruin his bleep, you know, all these curse words. I'm not gonna ruin his night and that he's gonna finish his drugs and he's gonna have fun. And I just got in bed and I started crying and begging him to just come to bed and hold me and to stop. And he wouldn't, you know. And it turns out he had heroin and he was smoking it and he was doing it right in front of me and acting insane and terrifying. And I just wanted him to go to bed. I'm sorry. I just wanted him to go to bed because I knew if he went to bed, he'd get sober and he'd wake up and I'd have my boyfriend back. And if we just went to bed, it would be over. It took a long time, but he finally went to bed, only for him to get more pills again. And this time, instead of doing coke, I decided to try the pills. So I started trying Vicodin and I started crushing it up and snorting it. We were just sitting there doing lines and lines and lines of Vicodin, and I was just sleeping as much as I could because I did not want to be awake when he was high, because I hated how he acted when he was high. It scared me. But I still didn't know how to leave, and I still didn't know what to do. And so, I knew this was gonna get emotional. So I texted his ex again and I said, I don't know how to leave, but I want to so badly and I'm scared and he scares me, and now I'm doing this, and I tried smoking the heroin too and I didn't really like it because I didn't inhale it very good, so I didn't feel anything from the heroin. So I thought that heroin didn't do anything because I smoked it and felt nothing. So I was just doing lines of Vicodin just to stay numb, and I couldn't stop because I was having these problems because I was an addict too and I didn't know it yet. And I was just telling her, please help me figure out how to leave. And so she gave me some advice, and my ex caught on to the fact that that was happening. And he posted something like on Twitter saying, we meaning me and him, are just laughing at you and how pathetic you are. And it was supposed to be a dig at his ex. And she saw that and she thought it must be true that I was just, you know, getting these texts from her and talking crap about her to my ex, and that she was just some kind of joke. And so instead of helping me anymore, she screenshotted all my texts and she posted them online, putting me in a lot of danger. And after that, I gave up. So I decided I gave up on trying to leave him and that I was just gonna stay with him because I felt entirely trapped and entirely alone. It does not matter when you are in these kind of situations how many people offer you help. It does not matter, because it's not like she was the only one. Just because she gave up doesn't mean I didn't have other people that were willing to help me if I asked. I truly felt like it was this him and I against the world mentality after that, where it was like you and us against everything. If you leave, I will die. Every time I tried to leave, he'd get down on his knees and hug me at my legs and look up at me and beg for me not to leave him. And I did not know what to do, so I would just stay. I didn't know how to hurt him. No matter how much I was getting hurt, I didn't know how to hurt him, so I just continued to stay. Then we did get sober somehow. I really don't remember how we did it. I honestly think the guy just ran out of stuff and we didn't know anyone else. We didn't know where to find it. So we got clean. And this is where my addiction actually started to show itself in a different form. And this is something I find very important to talk about in this video. Being sober and not knowing how to deal with it as an addict, I needed that rush. I needed that sick part of my brain. I needed it to be nurtured, and I didn't have the drugs to do it anymore. So I started putting it into my animals, which it doesn't sound that bad because it's like, oh, how horrible could it be that instead of putting your love into drugs that you put your love into animals. But I did it exceedingly so, and that is when I went through that time period where I accumulated animals extremely fast, almost dangerously fast. I want you guys to know that I fully recognize, now that I'm sober, that I did go through a period of time where I replaced drugs with animals, and that I accumulated animals way too fast, and that it was a horrible message to put out that it's safe to just get 12 animals in 2 months or whatever it was. It was probably even less than that, you know, 12 animals in 1 month or something like that. And I understand that it wasn't normal behavior, and it wasn't just, oh, I love animals so much that I'm just grabbing all of them. I was empty. I was supplementing my addiction with animals, and I was so miserable that I was just wanting to surround myself with as many animals to put my love and time into, to distract myself from how bad things really were. Now, none of this is me admitting that I neglected animals, because I do not believe when I was accumulating them fast that they were actually being neglected. I fed them well, they had the proper cages, I played with them, I gave them interaction, everything was good for them, but it was horrible for me. I was not healthy, and I barely showered or brushed my teeth or socialized or ate, because all I did was wake up, take care of the animals, get so tired from doing that because of my autoimmune disorders that I would do all that and then just pass out and go back to sleep. Everything sucked, and I was trying to pretend that everything was great. Now, when we got sober, things did get good between him and I again. He was the boyfriend that I wanted. He gave me attention. He wasn't in some weird psychosis from drugs. He was there. He was present. He was helping me with my animals. He was going on errands with me. He was cuddling with me, watching movies with me. He was the boyfriend that I wanted, which all the more made it harder to leave him when he acted like the person I didn't want him to be. I kept excusing it with that he was sick whenever he would relapse or go and drink to the point where he was drunk and mean. I kept telling myself, you know, he'll be better in the morning. That was my mantra. There were times where it was so horrible that I didn't even want to live, but I knew it would be better in the morning. We stayed sober for quite a while, and then tour started, and I went on tour with him on and off, and I started using coke again. And every time I used coke, he would start with telling me that I could use it and that he wouldn't use opiates, because he understood that I didn't act crazy on cocaine, but that he acted crazy on opiates, so that he could let me do coke and have fun at his shows, but he wouldn't touch anything. And again, at the time, I didn't fully understand addiction, so in my head I was like, okay, I don't act crazy on coke, so I'm gonna use it, and he can't use opiates because he does act crazy, and it's not my fault that he can't handle himself. There was a rumor going around at one point that someone left the tour. His drummer literally quit the tour because I was doing so much cocaine. His drummer was like, I'm not gonna sit here and watch a girl that hasn't even made it to adulthood yet, because I wasn't 21 yet, die of an overdose. I'm not gonna just sit here and watch it, because he was on the, you know, the bus with us, he was at the shows with us, he was everywhere, he was always around me and just watching me spiral into this addiction, and he did not want to watch me die. So he literally contacted my mom and was like, your daughter's going to kill herself with the amount of drugs that she is doing, and he quit. And then my boyfriend started relapsing again, and he kept saying, you know, well, I can't help it, when you use coke it makes me want to use, and it's not fair. And he would turn around the thing that he originally said that it was fine for me to use, he'd flip it back on me and be like, well, it's not fine and I can't help it, and all this stuff. Tour got really nasty after that. It was miserable. We got in horrible fights in front of the band. The band witnessed him say so many horrible things to me and treat me so horrible, and they just let it happen. I mean, it's not like they could have really done anything, but they just watched it happen. I would just go up to like the guitarist and the drummer and all of them and just cry and be like, I don't know why he's treating me this way. This is what he said to me today. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. There was a time where he got so high he was like writing in blood on the wall and screaming vulgarities and just being terrifying. The tour was a mess, and then he cheated on me. Basically, our relationship continued to be this wave of horrible downs and then semi-normal highs. Like, the best, highest part of our relationship was like the most minimal requirement that a girl normally would seek for in a relationship. But to me, it was amazing. And I got a good control, a good grasp of my problem with coke. Turns out it really wasn't my drug of choice, but at the time I thought it was. And no, I was able to stop. I did go on a few more binges and stuff, but ultimately I was able to put it down, which when you find your drug of choice as an addict, you can't put it down. And I didn't understand that. I didn't understand why he kept going back to opiates, because I could stop, and I just didn't understand why I wasn't good enough for him to stop. And I remember when we moved in together, he told me, I don't consider this a bad relapse because I didn't shoot up. I only snorted it, I only smoked it, whatever. And that if he ever shot up again, that he would absolutely give up on himself and that he would be hopeless. Because once he starts shooting up, he can never stop. And so we kept having these ups and downs of him going back and forth between popping pills and getting sober. And I even paid for him to get all new teeth because he said his teeth hurt so bad that that was a reason he would relapse often, to get rid of pain. So I paid over 40 grand cash up front to give him new teeth. That did not stop him. So it was a slap in the face. That it meant so much to me, and it was so special to me to give that to him so he could finally be out of pain and be sober, only to watch him continue to use. I always thought addiction was a choice. I really did, until I was faced with my own addiction. Then comes the darkest day of my life, which was last year. Basically, Kronos was sneezing, right? And I figured he might have a cold. So I went to the vet, and the vet said that they think he has a respiratory infection, that it might have just gotten a little too cold because it's supposed to be really hot in his cage. This was when it was getting colder in the months and stuff, and I hadn't gone through the cold months yet with Kronos before this. I wasn't used to it. And they gave me 6 injections to take home and give to him. And they said after these 6 injections, he'll be fine. A part of me still feels like I'm betraying my ex by telling this story, because I promised him I would never tell anyone because he said it would hurt him too much. I brought home those 6 needles and I gave him his first injection, and then I put the 5 remaining needles in the freezer because they were preloaded with the medicine. Now, the next night, out of nowhere, my ex has never done this before, but he comes out into the kitchen and says, I want to eat ice cream and take a bath at the same time. I'm like, all right, have fun, whatever. So he gets his bowl, he gets his spoon, goes in the freezer, gets his ice cream, and goes to the bathroom and closes the door. And I'm sitting there, and he comes back out, goes to the kitchen, puts his bowl away, and goes back to the restroom and says, I haven't finished my bath yet, I'm gonna get back in, but I want to put the bowl away. So I said, okay. So then I go in the kitchen because I decided I wanted ice cream too. And I go and I open the freezer, and near the ice cream is the pack of needles, and there's only 4. And I could have sworn that there were 5. And I thought, I was like, oh, no, I have to be crazy. Thought I started with 6, which means I would only have 5 now. Why are there only 4? And it just, all these thoughts were going through my head, and one of them crossed my mind. What if my ex took the needle and is using it? And I thought, no way, that cannot be happening, because he told me if he ever used a needle again, that his life would be over, and that he swore to never ever touch a needle again in his life. And that is the one promise that he has kept to me so far, and there is no way that he broke it. I go over to the sink, and I notice he only put the bowl of ice cream in there, not the spoon, and that the spoon was missing. So my whole stomach just, everything just sank in me, and it was the grossest feeling, and everything just zoned out. And I remember walking up to the bathroom door and going to turn the knob, and it was locked. And he has never once since living with me ever locked the bathroom door. And so I said, hey, can you let me in? And he goes, why do you need to come in? And I'm like, please let me in, please. He goes, why do you need to come in? You're scaring me. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm scaring you? I'm just asking you to come into the restroom. And he doesn't even sound like him. He has the like weirdest voice, super high pitched and scary, and just not him. And I was like, please let me in the bathroom. And like all the while, like my worst fears were coming to life in my brain. I'm like, the bathroom's locked, the needle's missing, he has a spoon, which you need a spoon to cook heroin to shoot it. He finally gets up and lets me in, and he's like, I don't know what you want. And instead of staying in the bathroom, he walks out and goes and hides in a corner, and I start digging through everything, and I find the spoon in the drawer. And I'm like, why is the spoon in the drawer? And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you mean. It's not, you know, not my spoon. I don't know. He's acting all weird, and I turn it over and it's burnt. And I just start sobbing and screaming at him. Why? Like, why? And I beg for him to give me the needle, and he insists there's no needle. Says there's no needle anywhere. I didn't do that. You know, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's still denying it. And I just feel defeated. The last promise that he had kept to me was broken, and I did not know what to do. I felt useless. I felt pathetic. I felt worthless. I felt disgusting. And finally he showed me where the needle was. He was hiding it in one of his jackets, and I said, you need to go to rehab. You need to get help. Please, please, please flush this needle with me, and let's end this once and for all. Let's get you help. Let's finish this. Let's get you in a rehab. I'll stay with you. I'll support you. I'll pay for the rehab. Let's just get you better. He says, okay, but first let me tell you a story. And he starts talking, and he's telling me the story, and he goes on and on and on for like an hour. And it's just like his whole life story about how pathetic he felt growing up, and how this relationship is the best thing he's ever had, and all this stuff. And it sounded like it was leading up to him agreeing to flush the needle with me. Let me remind you that by now, I know he has the needle, but he won't give it to me. He got it himself out of a jacket, and he's holding on to it, and he won't hand it over. And that's why I was begging him, please, let's flush it. That's why I didn't just throw it down the drain myself. He had it, and I couldn't get to it. And he was giving me this whole story, and I thought it was gonna end with him handing it to me and saying, okay, babe, let's flush this together and let me go get help. The story was about to be over. And I still remember this moment, and I will never forget it in my entire life. I was sitting on the bed. He was at the end of the bed, standing up, pacing back and forth the edge of the bed, and I'm sitting all the way in the bed with my hands around my legs and listening. And he goes, I just really think that this is the time. And I thought he was gonna say that we flush this and get it over with. But instead he goes, I really think that we should finish what I have left of the heroin together and then get clean. We'll have the best high that you've ever had, and we'll have it together, and it'll be beautiful, and I'll hold you, and we'll watch a movie, and we'll be in complete peace, and then we will never do this again, and we will get clean and sober, and we will put all the drugs in our past, and I will go to rehab, and I will get help, but let's just have one more good night, and then I'll go get help. I felt like someone grabbed a rug underneath me and just ripped it, and that I fell face down into the ground. I could not believe what was coming out of his mouth, and that this man that I was literally ruining my career for, giving him all the money I had, lost my family over, lost my friends over, lost my credibility over. This man that I was willing to do anything for just asked to shoot heroin into my veins. I said no, and I told him to leave. He refused to leave. He said he had nowhere to go. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to be on the streets? I'm scared. I don't know what to do. Please don't make me go. I'm scared. I don't know why I got high. I didn't know how to ignore the needle. I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. And please not to leave him out in the cold alone. And played right into me. Knew exactly how I worked, because I didn't know how to kick that man out and put him on the street. I was so scared if I kicked him out that he would go get more heroin and overdose. At least if I let him stay, that I would know he was safe, and that if he did overdose, I could call the police and an ambulance. So I told him he could stay, but that we needed to flush it. And he said, well, I'm not gonna flush it. I'm gonna finish it. And he goes and makes more. And the thought came back to me of how it felt when I would use Vicodin and I would be able just to sleep. No matter how crazy he was acting, no matter how miserable or hurt I was, that I was able to go numb and just be euphoric and sleep. And I figured maybe injecting it was kind of like that. Since smoking didn't work for me when I tried to smoke heroin, I was like, maybe it'll be kind of like the Vicodin, you know? I kind of asked him, like, is it like the Vicodin? He's like, yeah, but it's a little stronger, but you'll just feel like a warm blanket is taking over your body and you'll just be at peace. I was so miserable and so heartbroken, and he was starting to act kind of loopy. I couldn't get him to leave. I knew I wasn't going to be able to sleep all night, but I knew if I just used what he was using that I'd be able to sleep. So I agreed to let him do it finally. And I finally gave in. Just said, fine, just put it in my veins, get it over with. I'm not scared of needles. It was nothing that scared me. And I thought it was gonna be like the high that I had when I would use Vicodin. And then I met my drug of choice. My first time meeting heroin was actually pretty bad. I threw up everywhere, but I liked the feeling it gave that part of my brain that's always been sick. It gave it a feeling that I've never been able to find in any other substance. And then I decided, I hate puking, this is horrible, and I told him, I'm like, I'm getting way too sick from this. Is there another drug that's similar to this that'll give me the same feeling but is less intense than this, because this is making me too sick? That's when I found Dilaudid, and Dilaudid worked very well. It was like a less intense heroin. It gave me that amazing rush. It gave me that part of my brain, you know, satisfied that part of my brain. It fed that part of my brain. That's the sick part. It was an 8 milligram pill. I'd crush it and shoot it up. And then 3 days into it, I'd crush 2 every time I'd shoot it up. And I was shooting up every about 3 hours. After 4 or 5 days, I was crushing up 4 at a time and shooting every hour, and it wasn't giving me a rush anymore. So that is when I moved on to Roxycontin, 30 milligram blue Roxys. I crushed those up, put them in a needle and shoot them. So I was doing about 120 milligrams. My tolerance ended up getting too high for that. And that is when I felt ready to revisit heroin. And I started with tar, and then over the months went to powder, and over the months went to China White. My addiction was full blown, and I was sick. And I was still trying to put videos on. I was still trying to entertain people. I was still trying to make everyone happy. I was still trying to share my love of animals with everyone and pretend that I was happy and that I was in this great relationship and that everything was perfect and that I wasn't sick. And I was still blaming myself in my head for not being able to stop. Basically, to keep this video from droning on and on and on, that night was not the last night we used. I could not stop as much as he couldn't. We equally were sick and addicted the moment I tried it. I was so sick from it, guys. I don't think you understand. This is where the images get kind of graphic. I am going to include some just so you guys can see the progression of my disease. About a month into using, this happened to me. Don't know what it was. It was like some severe form of hives, basically. No medicine helped. They tried steroids, they tried antibiotics. Nothing worked. It lasted 3 weeks and I had to cover every part of my body, basically. Nothing logical that would stop a person from doing something could stop me. And that is what addiction is. If you do not agree with some of the things I'm about to say, please understand that I didn't understand this stuff either until I went to a world-renowned rehab. But addiction is a disease. And again, I'm going to get more into what addiction is, how it works in the brain, why people can't stop when they're addicts, why they can't just put it down, because I didn't understand that until I met my drug of choice, and then I could not put it down. I did make enough money to move into a very nice house for only 3 months, which is where you guys most recently saw me, to not drag you guys on and on through every day. To be exact, I might have mixed up the order a minute ago. I went from Dilaudid to Roxy's, to brown powder heroin, to tar, to China White. and China White was the last few months of my addiction. I tried to get sober in late January, early February of 2019. You might have saw some of my posts about it where I started to come out about my problem, saying that I was struggling with addiction. I was keeping it on the down low of how severe it was though, and I was saying that I was getting help. Now, none of that was a lie. I was getting help, but I was too ashamed to admit that I failed. I was basically ashamed. I thought there was something disgustingly wrong with me. I always had to cover my arms or wear makeup, intense makeup on my arms, because my body was covered in track marks. It was my arms, everywhere from the ditch of my arm down, my neck, my feet, my wrists, my hands, and I was muscling it when I ran out of veins. I finally did run out of veins I would say probably about 2 months before I got sober. I finally ran out of working veins. They weren't just collapsing and then rebuilding themselves. They were completely dead. I have scars all over my body from dead tracks. It ruined everything, and I promise you, every single day I wanted to stop, and every single day I swore to myself I was going to stop, but I was so sick. The second I stopped, I would just get so profusely sick. It was a pain I cannot tell you guys how that pain was. It's a pain I've never felt in my life. Like I said, I did try to get sober in February to January. I started posting pictures at a clinic. It was an outpatient clinic. I did go long enough without taking a shot of anything that I went into withdrawals, and I was deep enough into withdrawals that the opiates were off of my receptors and I could take something called Suboxone, which helps people through opiate withdrawals and helps you get through the initial transition of getting sober. I don't think it's really the best thing to stay on your whole life, because it can end up being harder to get off of than heroin, but it is an absolute amazing miracle drug to help you transition off of opiates. But long term it can be addictive in itself, so I don't think it's something you should stay on your for like 20 years or something, because then it's going to be almost impossible to get off of. So I actually successfully got on it, I was so happy with myself. I felt so proud of myself, and I flew out to Disney World, which is my favorite place in the whole world, and I decided I was gonna be out there for the first week of getting clean, so there would be no temptation to relapse. And I was miserable. And my boyfriend at the time was about to leave for tour. He was about to go on to his international tour, and he told me that if he left, he was very scared that he was gonna relapse. So I told him I would fly back home in a few days after being in Disney, and for him to go home and continue the program. So he did not go on tour, and he went back home, and I made it 3 days in Disney. I didn't go to a single park. I didn't leave my hotel. I was beyond depressed. I was so uncomfortable. I didn't know what to do without heroin. Even though I had this drug that was helping me with the physical symptoms of withdrawal, mentally I did not know how to function, and that is what this disease is. Heroin did nothing good for me at this point. It didn't even get me high. It literally just kept me from being profusely sick. But when I had a miracle drug given to me that stopped all the sickness, and I was finally free from this disgusting, disgusting thing, I couldn't be happy. And that is what this sickness of addiction is. It's when you have everything in your life given back to you. I'm in Disney World, my favorite place on the planet, with my little brother and my mom, who I love. I'm sober, my boyfriend's sober, he's going and getting help. Everything's going good. I'm getting my career back because I'm gonna be able to be sober and be able to do my, get my shit together. I have everything in front of me. I'm not sick. Nothing, but I am still mentally addicted, and I cannot let it go. So 3 days in to Disney World, I apologized to my mom and I fly home and I relapse. She didn't know that. She didn't know what was happening. I told her I just didn't feel good and that I wanted to go home. She had no clue I was going through any of this. I moved out of my apartment early March into this new beautiful home, and me and my boyfriend made a vow that we would never ever shoot up any drug in this new beautiful home. And I made it 24 hours and I was using again, and I said, okay, we're gonna stop. And I made it 10 hours and I was using again. I was like, okay, we're gonna stop. And I kept saying that and I kept meaning it every single day, and I just kept getting sicker. Every time I almost overdosed, anytime there was a scary situation, like when I accidentally shot inside of an artery instead of a vein, or when there was cotton inside my needle and the needle, you know, got the cotton inside my vein when I shot it in there, and my whole body would swell up and lump up and I couldn't bend my fingers. I couldn't bend my hand for a week. It was completely clogged because I hit an artery that I could not bend my hand. Do you see how thin my hand is? Look at this picture. I couldn't bend it for a week, and every single time that pain was excruciating. Accidentally hitting an artery or getting cotton in there, that was the most excruciating pain. And the entire time I was pleading, please make it stop. I swear to God, I'll never shoot up again if you just take this pain from me. And then it would pass and I'd sit down and I'd start to feel sick and I'd go, okay, I'm okay if I die this time, I'm gonna shoot up again. It's so hard to choose anything over the addiction. I couldn't choose anything over the addiction. So you may be wondering how I'm sitting here right now, clean and sober for 2 months now. As you guys know, I had an assistant that would come to my house and help me with my animals, and mainly help me with like day-to-day tasks so I could focus more on the animals. She had a dream, apparently, that I had died, and she continued to have the dream every night for like a week. And so she came to my house for her, you know, assistant stuff, and she just broke down crying and said, Taylor, I've had this dream about 3 other friends of mine, and they all died within a month of me having that dream, all from drug related things or suicides. And she was like, Taylor, I can't, I never did anything. I had those dreams, I watched them use, I watched them be depressed, and I never interfered or thought it was my place to do anything, but I'm not about to watch another friend die. And I was like, you don't have to do anything. Well, you know what, I guess I agree. Give me until Friday, and if I'm not clean Friday, then you can take me to rehab. And I was thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna lose her, and I can't let her back in this house because she's gonna take me, and I can't do this. I can't get sober. I thought I was never gonna let her back in. But if you guys have any kind of trigger for needles, this is the number you should skip to so you don't see the next photos. She took photos of my bathroom, which was this beautiful bathroom. Here's a picture of it, nice and clean. That's my beautiful bathroom. That was when I moved into the house, and it was a beautiful house. She actually went into my bathroom and had taken photos while she was cleaning. She actually had taken photos of my bathroom and what it looked like. You have to know, this wasn't me setting it up to try to look bad. This is literally what my bathroom looked like every day. And it terrified me and I hated it. This disgusting bathroom is what I was living in. There was blood on the walls, on the ceiling, on the mirrors. I would go outside of that bathroom, sleep in the bed, wake up the second I wake up. I couldn't sleep through the night without waking up and medicating myself. I would wake up in the middle of the night and ask my boyfriend to help shoot me up, because all this time I could not shoot myself up. I could not find my veins because I have very sensitive skin, and it hurt to dig around to try to find veins, and it was easier to just pinch myself. I actually have scars. I don't know if you guys can see. I actually have scars from where I'd pinch myself really hard while he dug around my arms trying to find whatever veins would work. I couldn't really do it. I only shot myself up like twice ever. So I wasn't even shooting myself up ever. I'd wake him up throughout the night, roll myself out of bed, go into the bathroom, he'd shoot me up in this disgusting pit, and then I'd fall back asleep. Anyway, but she texted my mom and showed her everything that was happening and was like, your daughter needs help. She needs to get away from this guy. And so my mom started randomly showing up every day unannounced to my house. And I kept telling her, no, I got sober that day and I started on Suboxone, and I kept telling her I was healthy, that I was clean, and that I was sober. And so my mom knew that my boyfriend was the one that was shooting me up. So she told my boyfriend, you need to leave and go somewhere while Taylor gets clean. She knew that he wouldn't leave if it was permanent. Like if she said you have to leave and never come back, he would have put up a fight. But if she told him that he had to leave for like a week, which he agreed to do. So he left the house for a week. Right before he left, he went out and got more drugs, and he got 10 pieces of tar, basically 10 little baggies, 10 $20 dubs of heroin. And he gave me 5 and he took 5 with him to New York. And he left the 5 with me, and I just muscled all 5 of them in my butt because I didn't have any veins left to use. For the next few days, I was using those 5 pieces. I was using as little as I could, making it go as long as I could, because I didn't know the dealer's number. I didn't know how to find drugs after that, and my ex refused to give me the dealer's number, which thank God that he refused to, since he wasn't there anymore to shoot me up. He just said no. I had no access to any more drugs. I was running out, and I was still telling my mom I was clean and sober, and my plan is whenever I ran out that I was gonna sober up in between my mom visiting. I ran out, and I ended up getting on my hands and knees and crawling around my entire house, finding every little piece of cotton, which is the filter that goes between the heroin and the needle, and every single piece of cotton that I had used since I moved in there. I dug around and found. And of course it wasn't out where any of my animals were or anything like that, but in the bathroom and in the closet and stuff, I dug around and found them in multiple bathrooms. And I was able to live off the cotton rinses for 3 more days. Then I ran out and I went to bed. And I woke up the next morning and I thought I was in withdrawals because my nose was runny and my pupils were big. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna take a Suboxone now, which is that medicine I told you about that helps you with withdrawals. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna take a Suboxone now and I'll be good to go and fine and perfect, and my mom will come and I'll be fine, and I fixed everything and I got it all under control. Meanwhile, I was trying to find more drugs, but until then I needed to take a Suboxone because I was getting sick. So I took a Suboxone, and I actually took it too soon. And when you take it too soon, it goes to your receptors in your brain, goes to the opiate receptor where all the heroin is, and it pushes it all out immediately. So instead of gradually having your body lose more and more, you lose it all simultaneously. Your body goes from being used to having heroin every day for a year in your body to having not a single drop of it in your body. And that was the worst pain I have ever experienced in my life, worse than any withdrawal I've ever experienced. I fell to the floor, covered in sweat, puking. My heart raced so fast that I blacked out. I came to try to crawl to the bathtub. I made it into the bathtub convulsing. Got hot water. I was changing it from hot to cold because I was dripping sweat but shaking, covered in goosebumps, but couldn't stop sweating. So I was hot to cold, passed back out again, got up, crawled out of the bathtub, fell asleep on the bathtub, on the bathroom floor, woke up in my own sweat and vomit, crawled myself back outside by my bed, fell to the floor, couldn't make it in my bed, passed out again on the floor for about 6 hours, woke up shaking everywhere. I could not control any part of my body. It was convulsing and shaking everywhere. I was screaming, asking for anyone to hear me, to help. I couldn't reach my phone. I was terrified. It was the scariest thing I've ever been through in my life. I would have chose death at that point if I could have. It was the worst pain ever. Every single part of my body was shutting down and freaking the hell out. And finally, after about 9 to 10 hours of this, I was able to get into the bed and fall asleep, and I was still sweating and shaking and sweating and shaking, and my whole entire bed was drenched in sweat, and I had a king-size bed, so that's a lot of sweat. And I was still too cold to take the covers off, but too warm to have them on. It was the most worst thing I've ever felt in my life, and the whole time I was texting, begging anyone to come deliver me any drug that I could put in my body to make this pain go away. And my mom happened to knock on my door, and I knew there was no way in the world I could pretend to be okay. And there was no way I could say it was just a flu. This is not how you act when you have the flu. So I sat there for about 10 minutes and I texted my mom, I'll be right there. I was able to grab my phone and tell her. And I sat there for 10 minutes thinking, what am I gonna do? And I finally just said, okay, I'm just gonna tell her I'm in withdrawals. So I opened the door and I said, I am so sorry. And immediately told her everything, you know, like, I'm in withdrawals, I haven't been sober, I've been trying to self-medicate, I'm not okay, I don't know what to do. And I begged for her to just let me go back to sleep and get through it, because the whole time in my head I was thinking, if I just go to sleep and get through this, my dealer can come in about 3 hours. I found someone that could bring me something, and she refused to leave. And she watched me all night, and then the next morning she drove me an hour away to a rehab facility that said that they could take me. And I had to sign myself over. So the whole time I was thinking, I am going to leave. The second I am not violently ill, I'm signing myself out and I'm going home, and I'm just gonna keep using, and I give up on my life. I fell asleep there that night, scared out of my mind, terrified, but finally able to take Suboxone and help, like, properly, so they gave me Suboxone. And I took it and I actually felt okay, but of course I still had the mental cravings, but physically I was finally not sick. And it was amazing to not be sick for once, because I spent like the last 3 months super sick. And I started making friends there and stuff, so I decided, I'll complete the detox period, which is 10 days. So I decided I was gonna stay 10 days and then leave. All right, my camera died again, and so now I'm eating mochi, which I'm obsessed with right now. So I went to rehab and it changed my life. I kept extending the time in which I told myself I was gonna self-check out. What word am I looking for? Discharge myself. That's the word. After being there for about 2 weeks, I actually started to listen and really hear things in a way that I never have before. And every day they had different world-renowned doctors come and people that have studied addiction for, 20 years, 30 years, like people that have really been around this for a long time. And they taught me I wasn't some broken, disgusting thing. They taught me that I was sick and that I am sick and I'm going to have this problem for the rest of my life, and that I have never been crazy, that the alcohol, the 2 sips of it that drove me nuts and what made me want more, the 1 little bump of cocaine that made me obsess about it, that's all part of this disease, and that there's a part of my brain that is different. It is really a real thing. If you don't believe that, that's okay. You don't need to try to tell me that I'm wrong. I accept that you don't believe that. I do highly, highly suggest that if you have had someone in your life affect you from addiction, I highly suggest going to a program called Al-Anon. This is different than AA. It's a place for people that have been affected by addicts. It's a safe space where you get to heal, get to talk about the pain caused by having an addict in your life. It teaches you how to heal from it. It helps you move on, and it also helps you understand why things happened the way they did. And I highly suggest it because it is not a place for addicts. It is a place for people affected by addicts. And if you don't understand addiction, I highly, highly suggest you go there, because I didn't understand it as an addict. I didn't understand it until I went to a place that had people that knew my story and knew what was wrong and knew how to help me. And basically I got sober in rehab, and when I completed rehab and left, I stayed sober. And right now I'm living with my parents. I got out of the lease for the home that I had, and I no longer live there, sadly, but I could not go back there. Right now I'm doing IOP, which is intensive outpatient, and I'm doing it 10 hours a week. I'm also doing therapy, going to AA meetings or NA meetings multiple times a week. So I am very, very invested in my recovery. And if I stop going to programs, if I just sit here at home and don't go, it creeps back up on me and I start wanting it again. And I start thinking about relapsing. I've gotten very close to relapsing about 3 times, like scary close, to the point where I'm in the middle of texting a dealer. But I just reach out to my sponsor, I reach out to friends, I go to a meeting, and I keep myself accountable. I absolutely need help. I can't do this alone. No one can do it alone. So that is my story. That is what's been happening over the last 2 years. That is the crazy story that I've been having to keep quiet for so long. Sorry, this is really good. Okay, so this has obviously been probably my longest video that I've ever had, and I know it has been a very serious and emotional one. I don't really know how to end it, and it's 5:30 a.m. and I just got my sleeping schedule good, and now I messed it up for this video. So I'm gonna start editing tomorrow and get this up as soon as possible, but I will be talking about more focused on the animal side of things in the next video, and it will be a fun one too. I'm gonna be showing you guys how I feed all my animals also, so it'll be another fun video. I appreciate you guys staying with me through this incredibly long journey. These last 2 years have been absolutely insane. They've been a learning experience though, and now that I understand what it's like to be an addict, I understand how dangerous of a game I was playing with my ex and trying to use every once in a while and just use on, you know, cocaine and not this drug and not that drug. Every single thing leads back. If I were to try to use any drug now, it would lead back to heroin. It was a rough journey, but I learned a lot. I really did. I learned a lot about myself. I learned things that now I can take and help other people grow with the knowledge that I have now. And I'm really excited to talk to you more about this kind of stuff in the future. My sobriety date was June 4th. So now I'm over 2 months sober, and I am just so blessed for everything. So thankful for all of you guys. You guys have been amazingly supportive in my recovery. I'm fully ready to use this to help other people. So thank you guys for listening to my story. I hope you guys will be open-minded to seeing my videos progress in the future now that I get the second chance to come back to doing what I love, now that I am fully there and I am back. And I just couldn't be happier to have this chance. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you guys next time, or you guys will see me next time. I love you guys so much. Bye. Thank you for listening.